Look what I made. Look what I made. Y'all want to see how I made this? Welcome back to another episode of Cooking with Busy Ree. So y'all, today we are cooking. We are not cleaning.
I wake up every morning and tell myself, good morning, gorgeous. Sometimes you
So on the menu today we have pork chops with rice and gravy. Let's get into it. The ingredients you need: pork chops, of course, onions, butter, flour, and then you need your seasonings. Your seasonings are onion powder, garlic powder, Creole seasoning, Cajun seasoning, a little bit of poultry, and some beef bouillon. So what I do first is soak my pork chops in water and vinegar, and I let them sit maybe like 10 or 15 minutes, or depending on how much time I have. No, I didn't just sniff that vinegar, but I love vinegar. So now this is me just getting out my seasonings. That's the beef bouillon. And you're also going to need chicken bouillon, but that's going to be for the rice later on in the video. And I know it may seem like a lot of seasonings, but we're going to get into that, so just stay tuned. So now this is me just soaking the pork chops, rinsing them with water. You know, they had been sitting for a while, pouring the water out, just rinsing them. And then you want to make sure you pat them dry, because when you put your seasonings on, you do not want it to just run off and be like seasoned water. So make sure you dry off your pork chops. So now I'm walking over to my station. I'm going to dry them some more and also get out the skillet that I'm going to brown the pork chops on, because you want to brown each side maybe for like 3 to 5 minutes depending on your preference, but I say about 5 minutes. So you add your oil and let that warm up while you're seasoning your chops. So I added my beef bouillon already. This is either Creole or Cajun, but I used both. This is Poultry. I mean, not Poultry, I'm sorry, Pepperica. And I think I forgot to tell y'all Pepperica in the beginning of the video. So you can use that. That's the Poultry. It's no specific order, just all the seasons that I named. You just put it on there, mix it in, make sure every chop is covered. So you will see me like lift some up from the bottom and flip them and rub them together so that both sides is coated really, really good, because you want it to be seasoned. And most of this is like powder, so it's not too salty. So here it is. You just, mix it in, rub them in, make sure they coated all the way. So next I'm about to start browning the pork chops, but this is also where you want to put your onions in. I did not have any onions, so I would just put onions like on the top of the pork chops or at the bottom of the skillet, just so they can caramelize just a little bit. And when I flip them over to cook the other side, I will put those same onions on that side of the pork chop. So this is me just getting another batch, because when I put my first batch in, I didn't know my camera wasn't recording. So I'm just showing y'all how I did it. It's nothing, just putting the meat in the pan. That's it. That's all. Nothing fancy. But I still wanted to show y'all, me putting them on there. So there you go. Because y'all my peoples. I said, I got to show them, let them see me putting this meat on this pan. So while this batch is browning, this is where I get my rice out. I use Uncle Ben rice. So I don't measure my rice in water. I just pour as much rice I think I need, for my family of 5, sometimes leftovers for work. And I just add my water. But first I'm going to rinse my rice out. I only rinse it like about 2 times, and, that's enough for me. So that's me walking to the sink just to, rinse it a little bit, pour it out. And once I fill my water up, I just cover my rice, make sure the rice is covered with water, and my rice always come out fine. So, do what's best for you. If you want to measure. If I'm not mistaken, I think for every cup of rice, you use 2 cups of water. Don't quote me on that. I'm not for sure, but I think that's what it is. You can look at the back of the box and read what they say, go off what you want to do. I just make sure my rice is covered with water. And then this is when I'll add the chicken bouillon to my water. But you want to be careful, because you don't want it to be too salty, because your gravy is going to have the chicken bouillon, the beef bouillon inside the gravy. So you don't want it to become too salty. So for the rice, I just sprinkle just a little bit to give it, that little flavor, that little kick, just a little bit, just a little 1, 2. You see that? Just a little bit, okay? So, but do what's best for you. I just put a little bit to give it that flavor. And now I'm getting out my pans for my pork chops, because I was going to cook them on the stove, but my pot wasn't big enough, so I'm actually making 2 pans of the pork chops because they so big I needed another pan. And speaking of big, let me tell y'all about them pork chops. Before I tell y'all about them, make sure all the drippings from that pan that you made your chops on, you pour it into the pan that's going in the oven, because that's a lot of flavor, because that's where the onions is at and all the flavor, the juices. So pour it in the pan with your pork chops, okay? And then put them in the oven for about 45 minutes. And those pork chops are from Sam's Club. It was a big pack for like $30. It's about 16 or more pork chops that come in that pack, and they are super big. If you go back to my video, I think it's grocery shopping with 2 teens, you would see when I bought those pork chops, and I'm like, would y'all pay $30 for them? But anyway, this is when you start making your gravy. So you just need some butter and salt and pepper, and then get your flour out, and then just melt your butter. I ended up putting the whole stick because I'm making 2 pans of gravy, so I needed a lot of my ingredients. So you just melt down your butter, you put a little bit of salt, just a little sprinkle of salt and a little bit of pepper, and once that melt down, your flour, you would need maybe about like 1/4 of flour. You don't really need a lot of flour, about 1/4, and then you just whisk it into the butter, and just keep whisking, like that's where that's the key to that gravy. So yeah, this is me showing you the 1/4 measurement. So you just use 1/4, put that in there, and then you would just whisk it in. And also right here, as you're whisking, you can put some onions in. Actually, you put the onions right before you put the flour. So when the butter is melting down with your pepper and salt, add your few slices of onions if you want to. That's what I would have done, but I didn't have any onions. So you just whisk everything in, and once the onions get a little translucent, that's when you will add the flour. And you want to cook that flour in, because you don't want your gravy to taste like dough, like you don't want that flour taste. So you keep whisking, and then when it's like to your liking, you will add your chicken broth. Now for me, well, not chicken broth, beef broth, because it's the pork chops. Now for me, I don't buy chicken broth or beef broth. I make mine with either the chicken bouillon or the beef bouillon. So you saw me pour some of the seasoning in a cup of hot water, and I stir it in, and then that's what I add to my flour roux, because it gives more flavor to me than the carton of the chicken broth or beef broth. So I always make my own. So this is me just whisking it in really, really slow. Just keep whisking. Again, that's the key. You have to whisk. Use that wrist. Flick of the wrist. And also, after I whisk a little bit, if you want your gravy a little darker, you can add soy sauce or what is it called? Browning. I always do soy sauce, so you will see me put a little bit of little dabs in there. See, yeah, there it go. I just did a few. I didn't do a lot because I didn't want it like dark. But I will add it in just a little bit. And if you want your gravy a little thicker, of course you can add more flour, but for me and my family, I don't like it super thick. So mine's be not liquidy, but it still be more loose than thicker, and that's just what we prefer. But do what's best for you. To get it thicker, just add a little bit more gravy. I mean, not gravy, I'm sorry y'all, a little bit more flour. And you don't want to add the flour to it like right now, because your flour will like lump up and your whole gravy will be messed up, and you will have to start all over. So you have to make sure you do it in the beginning when you first pour your flour in there. Do not try to pour flour in that gravy when it's already liquid, because it's going to mess up. So this is me checking on the pork chops. I flipped them over so the other side can cook too. And I'm going to pour the gravy on top after I flip them over. And then I'll put that pan back in the oven, and then I'll do the other one as well. So, you just want to make sure you flip them so, they can cook evenly. So this is me pouring the gravy on. And two, the gravy will get thicker too while it's cooking in the oven. So you can be mindful of that too. So mine's is like, it looked like runny, but it's gonna be good. So yeah, this is the other pan, and I'm gonna do the same thing. You know, flip the pork chops over and then add the gravy in. I did it off camera because it's like you just saw me do that. So I put this back in the oven. Man, I wish I had them onions up in that gravy, y'all. Please, even if you don't eat onions, get that flavor of the onions and you could just pick it out. So this was the finished product. I left the gravy in maybe like 30 more minutes, and there you have it. Bon appetit. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for chilling with Busy Ree. Bye.